Welcome to the club, baby. Take a seat. My name is Mr. Gorgeous Clooney, and I'd like you to be on my team for a highly lucrative heist. Here's the plan. We review a cooperative small box card game for 3 to 6 players. We talk about the components. We explain just enough of the rules to give the audience some flavor. And when the guards are down and no one suspects a thing, we give them all the information they need to work out whether or not they want to buy it. After that, we just sit back and watch the money roll in. And the beautiful part about this whole plan, no one even notices anything's been stolen. You see, when I was explaining the heist, I kept something back, a little secret. The heist wasn't a heist, it was a YouTube video. And by that time, I'm out of here.
If you've never seen the film Ocean's 11, then just like this man was when I started doing a bit at him about this game, you may have just been slightly confused. But that's your fault. It's a very easy watch, and I'm willing to bet that most attics contain at least 2 copies of it on DVD, so get up there and get digging. This is the gang, kindly provided by Cosmos and designed by John Cooper and Corey Heath. And I'm holding this box very carefully now because it's basically impossible to film this thing because it's so shiny. Look, it's gone. It looks beautiful with human eyes though, just cameras. You'll be working together as a team of operatives trying to pull off a heist. 3 successful rounds and you've cracked the safe and made it out. 3 failures and the alarms have gone off way too many times. You're really in trouble. In the past, we've reviewed some truly cracking heist games. Magic Maze is a fantastic simulation of being on a heist where one of you is real dumb, and Burgle Bros really nailed that sense of japes-based capers. And so how well does this shimmering box of cards and poker chips conjure up that feeling of being on a heist? No, the theme is really actually very thin on this one. But the game is mostly, it's just poker. This is just a standard deck of cards. Each player gets a couple of them, and then 3 go face down in the middle of the table. For those familiar, yes, I am literally just describing poker. Each round you're looking to see if you can make specific hands of cards using the cards in your hand, but also the ones that get revealed in the middle of the table. It's poker. I'm just describing poker. Is this my job now? But this isn't just poker. This is cooperative poker. I don't know if I want, do you want to play that? That doesn't sound great. Whoa. Hold those horses and play them with aces. It's a lot better than it sounds. You see, right after you first look at the 2 cards that you start with, you'll pick a poker chip that represents how good you think your hand might be on a scale of best to worst. In a 4-player game, each player would end up with one of these 4 chips, with the 4-star being the person who thinks they have the best hand and the one the worst. So if I've got 2 cards I feel really confident about, I'll take the 4. I think my hand's the best. During this picking process, you can't communicate with other players at all. But with the exception of the rule that you're not allowed to give tokens to other people and put them in front of each other, it's a free-for-all. You can be taking someone else's token, you can be shoving yours back to the middle, you can be frowning at people as much as you like. Oh, you're taking that chip? Nah. My hand is definitely the worst. Oh, you're taking it back again? No. This belongs here. Are you sure? Fine. I guess. Great news though, these tokens don't actually matter. Because after we've all decided that we're as happy as we're going to be with those token positions, we are going to reveal the 3 cards in the middle. We're then going to do exactly the same thing again with these 4 yellow tokens, having changed the situation and maybe getting a slightly different read on how good or bad we think our hand is. Mine's much worse than it was, much worse. But these chips don't matter either. We're then going to reveal another card, do the same thing with the orange token, and then a final card. And the red tokens come out to play. Crucially, all of these earlier chips we've played stay out in front of us, so we can go back and look at exactly how confident each player was in their 2 cards at each different stage of the game. And then we have to choose these final red chips, and these ones do matter. After you've locked all of these in the order that you feel most confident about as a group, you're gonna, from lowest to highest, reveal your hands, hopefully matching in perfect sequence the worst poker hand to the best one. If you haven't completely perfectly matched that sequence, then you've triggered an alarm and you're a third of the way to losing the game. But if you do manage to get it and absolutely nail it, you're a third of the way to winning the game. Also, as a side note, it feels incredible. It's like you're all magicians. At least one high five is going to be necessary. Now, if getting that order completely right sounds impossible, I've got some shocking news for you. If you understand poker, it's really easy. It's very easy. Having this history about how people felt about their hand at each stage of the round often makes it really obvious what cards people are holding. You can start to understand what cards people might have been hoping for, or which hands may have emerged as the round went on. When Steven suddenly jumps from a 2-star chip to a 5-star chip after that jack came out, well, if he had 2 jacks to begin with, he probably would have gone higher than a 2. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Steve is holding a single jack, or as they say in Las Vegas, he's solo-style jacking it. Now this game plays between 3 and 6, and with 6 chips to choose from, 6, it's obviously tougher to get the exact order right, but at the same time you've got so much more texture to play with. Changing from a 2 to a 4 is more specific than a 2 to a 3. Meanwhile, with just 3 players, going from having the worst hand to the best, there's not a lot to play with there on that scale. But let's just rewind for a moment. I feel like I need to go back to the fact that yes, this is cooperative poker. They've taken the toothiest competitive game in the world and they've turned it into something where you all win together. If you heard that off in the distance, yes, that was lots of men in wraparound shades screaming. Cooperative poker as an idea, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't sound good. And I just wanted to be honest about that, you know? From my perspective, there are 2 types of people in the world. There are the people who think that, yeah, we can play poker, but let's just not play for money, we can play for matchsticks. You know, it'll be fun. And people such as myself, who when people say that, just want to keep saying the word no, incrementally, exponentially louder. I've always been a firm believer that you just can't play poker without gambling. And if you want to play a card game without gambling, you just play something else. But the gang is something of a magic trick in the fact that it's a version of poker that really works without gambling. Even though you're not trying to beat anyone, it still feels like poker. And I think that's because a lot of the information that you're trying to get in the game is different, but you're looking for that information in the same places that you do in traditional poker. In cool original flavor poker, you are looking at the chips that a player has in front of them. What's their total pot? How much are they betting on the current hand? You might even be looking at the manner with which they're handling those chips. How sure are they? And the second thing you'll be looking at in poker is their face. What's the deal with that face? Is it potentially harboring at least one big lie? And yet in the gang, you are still trying to work out how good your hand is compared to everyone else's. Instead of looking for a flicker of deception, you're looking at the shades of truth. Yeah, you've got a bad hand. How bad? Tell me. Tell me with your eyes. So it shouldn't work as well as it does, but gosh, it really does. You're swapping out the excitement and the nuances of bluffing for the nuances of different types of truth. It's like stealing a painting and replacing it with a perfect, maybe even a better copy of a painting that looks exactly the same. I've got to stop doing these heist-based skits. It's the theme in this game is it really doesn't conjure up heists at all. It doesn't. And yet, the theme here does something important, something I think is quite special, valuable, like a gem that you'll steal. But before we get to that, we'll come back to that in a minute. It's time to address the elephant in the room, or, if I'm being honest, the rabbit ninja. It's like I don't know what it is. Is it a rabbit? Strip away the poker facade and the magic trick in this card game. It's one we've already kind of seen. The mind is a tiny, tiny, simple box, and it has that same magic trick of somehow allowing you to communicate non-verbally, just using vibes. And I can see why folks such as myself who play an awful lot of games might look at this and go, this is nice, but there's nothing here that's especially exciting. And I hear that. And honestly, I mostly agree with that sentiment. The game comes closest to being genuinely great when played on the hardest difficulty, which makes me sound like the worst kind of Reddit poster I am aware. Hear me out. You've got these modules that add extra challenges or extra support based on how well you're doing in the game. Breezing through a heist, new problems arise. Having a problem, there's a guy called Barry outside. He's got a car. I made that up, that's not a card. But Barry, car Barry, it's pretty good. Write it down, Cosmos, write it down. These cards add a little bit of a rub to the game, but it's nothing dramatic, it's nothing fascinating. But on the hardest difficulty variant, you still have this system of things getting harder when you're doing well, but you also have one of these permanent problems that is just there for the entirety of the game. For my money, it is just the most fun way to play the game, and I highly recommend giving it a quick go without any of that stuff and then just diving right to the end of the deep end. It makes the game as good as it gets. But mostly though, I still do kind of agree that this is a flashy presentation of ideas we've seen before, and it doesn't really flesh those ideas out in a meaningful way. We discussed this game on the podcast, and that was how Tom felt about this game. And I know a lot of other people feel that way about this game too, which does beg the question, and I'm sure people are asking, well, why are you reviewing this game? Shut up and sit down. Let alone recommending it with the shut up and sit down recommends badge. Got stealth attack, triple damage. Don't pretend you saw that coming. Come on now. Come on. I'm going to explain it. This box might not be essential if you're somebody who chews through and plays tons of games, but this is an incredible game for getting people to give games a try. And I know I often hype up games or talk about games as being good entryways for getting people into the hobby, and I can't help it. It's because I'm an evangelist. This is why I do what I do. I want us all to play games. It's not weird, I promise. Is it weird? But of course you can't get everyone into board games. Sometimes it's impossible. People like Alan Dad, the world's most median uncle. He's just not interested. There's no way we can break into that heart of his. People have tried. It's impenetrable. Here's the plan. First up, we've got the package. Ooh, what's this cool sexy box? A card game, you say? Come, Mr. Bond. Let's not be a total silly Billy. It is? Ooh. This game's theme isn't immersive, but it doesn't need to be. It's like lighting drippy candles when you're playing a game of werewolf. It's not going to make anyone think you're actually a wolf. But by leaning into these classic mainstream tropes, we can get people into the zone. It's like a fancy dress outfit, but for your brain. I'm a cool casino person, and I've got chips that I can fiddle with. I'm comfortable in this situation because I've seen a film. Alan, we haven't even started, and it's already game time. A cooperative game, that could be a problem. People who don't play games very much really don't like the idea of working together. If we work together, then how does Alan win? But there was that series of films where really cool people were really cool together as a team? We've got them thinking about Little Pitt and Big Clooney. That's our foot in the door. Wedge that mother open. But games are hard to learn, and if I get the rules wrong or I don't understand it, everyone will think I'm stupid, and I'll stop getting invited to barbecues that I like. Okay, he's uncertain. It's time to go in for that ego massage. Oh, the rules of the game? It's basically poker. That means I already know how to play? It's a confidence boost that no one could have expected. Now he's feeling like the cocksure king of Cardboard Town. Bring him a double apple juice. Iced. And now it's just a matter of asking that question. Alan Dad, would you like to play?
All right, but only if it's quick. I've got to get the dogs dewormed for next Thursday.
And those are the 14 magic words we wanted to hear. We got him. The Gang is a good game. I think it's on the edge of a great game. But it's the way that these different elements collide to create something that is just so welcoming. It's something that gives this box tremendous value to me and to most people who play games, I think. I talk a lot about games that are good to try and introduce people to the hobby, but a lot of the time, if we're all being completely honest here, that process feels a little bit like a slightly crap tutorial in a video game of going, listen, we're going to get through this slightly awkward, unpleasant thing so in the future, you can have fun. Is this going to be fun? You might have fun, all right? Let's just write it out, and then we could do the fun later. One of the complications about loving board games and wanting to convey that love to other people is that we know that the juice is worth the squeeze. Like, learning and playing board games can be hard work. And it's easy now to look back at all of these systems and mechanics and ideas that we've just sort of like learned to breathe like oxygen and think, well, it's not too complicated. It's easy enough, when a lot of the time, no, it isn't. And there's no way you can convince people that it's going to be worth the effort. People can only discover that for themselves. And if you're like me and you've been playing games for a long time, we all know that sometimes that process can be bumpy, of trying to bring someone in. You think this will be perfect. It doesn't land. It doesn't go well. It's tough to take people along that. And I think it's because often the bar we set is this going to be difficult for me to teach? Is it going to be difficult for these people to understand? Whereas this is like a perfect storm. I don't think it was an intentional part of the design, but the way that this allows players to just fundamentally understand so much of the game before you've even said anything, and then also put them into a mindset that feels familiar, warm, and ultimately makes teamwork feel really cool. It's an incredible tool in the arsenal of having things that might get people into this hobby. I'd love to say that it's a fantastic example of how casual game design could be better, but I do understand that not every game can be literally poker, and not every game can hinge quite heavily on a very specific but also quite vague popular genre of movie/television. Although, having said that, I've just invented the Matrix Crocodile. But someone write that down. And that about wraps up this review of The Gang. I imagine some people might be quite confused about that one, but I think it's important to remember that when we buy board games, we're not just buying them for us, we're buying them for us and other people. We might not even know who those other people are yet. And keeping a mind for that is important. I'm thankful, I just want to be a little real for a minute, I'm thankful that we have an audience here that allow us to have reviews, recommend you things, but also talk about play, get excited, go down rabbit holes thinking about the nature of play and how it changes us and how it enriches our lives. Because I do feel that fundamentally our audience are not people who are just interested in buying board games. They are people who are interested in play. They're interested in players. They're interested in the people who sit around them and people in general. It's wonderful having an audience of people who are open to ideas, open to investigating new things. And things like this, tools like this that are effectively a crowbar to try and get someone to maybe consider being interested in something someone else is interested in, it doesn't feel like a problem with you folks. And so thank you. Thank you for lending us your ears, your eyes, and your brains, and for being a wonderful, open-minded audience. It matters a lot, and it makes our jobs and our lives all the better. That's it. That's it. Who wants to be in a gang?
My favorite drink is gorgeous Kahlua. Why my hound? Shut up and sit down. When I've been in so many films, I just like those guys. Check me out on television program ER. It stands for Electronic Robots.